So you'll have an option of 2 different projects for your final ceramics project here in this class. The first one is a smooth coil vase. The requirements for this are minimum height or width of 6 inches, blending the outside of your vase, blending the inside of your vase. This will help make it stronger and watertight, making sure to slip and score every coil, having impeccable craftsmanship, and using a template to maintain the profile of your vessel, so that way you have the shape that you are going for. Another requirement is that you add some sort of applique design to the outside. So aside from being just a smooth vase, you have added on decorations to the outside. So here are some student examples of a smooth coil vase with applique. So you'll notice that the outside is nice and smooth. You don't see any visible coils. You're really just using the coils as the building blocks to create your final piece. Once the overall vase is created, then the applique pieces are added. So in these cases, the flower on the left or the octopus on the right. The image on the left does not have any applique, but it does have a very nice overall form to it. As far as what you want the profile to look like, you will have a lot of different options. So try to stay away from a basic cylinder because that won't be as exciting. The piece on the right has some applique on it. It has the 2 handles and it has these stars that are appliqued towards the top. On the left, some excellent applique with a sea turtle, fish, some seaweed. The right does not have applique, but once again we have a nice example of an interesting form that breaks away from that basic cylinder shape. So you can see that the students had very different ideas as to what they did in terms of the form and what they did as their design work with the applique. Flowers seem to be very popular, but you can have your applique be more abstract or look like something. So the process of this is you're going to start off with kind of the basic profile, so the silhouette, what's the overall shape. So there are tons and tons of endless options for this, similar to when we did our slab vessel. One thing to keep in mind is gravity, so you don't want your vase shape to be top heavy, because then chances are it might fall apart on you just from the weight. You'll be using a template, which is shown on the right, to kind of keep your shape where you want it to be. So just lots and lots of different examples. You don't have to use any of these. You can kind of free-form it to whatever you want. But these are going to be organic, so they are going to be curvy and wavy. You're not going to be making anything that's boxy with this. There's some examples here that are more like a pitcher for water, for iced tea. So if you want, you can have your vase be more of a pitcher with a spout. But here's how the template gets used. So you'll have this template on the side, and as you're kind of building, you'll kind of use that template on the side to help you shape and form. So you know how far you should be putting coils out and bringing coils in. There's not going to be necessarily a formal demo for this. There is a video embedded in the PowerPoint that will show you kind of the step-by-step process. There are also a lot of images for the process. So this will kind of help guide you into what you need. So rolling out a slab, cutting out a base, rolling out coils, how to slip and score, adding, pinching. Okay. So we did touch on a lot of this when we introduced coils in the beginning, where we kind of built a wall. So how to smooth the inside, how to blend the outside. So you'll kind of just be using this process overall, repeat, to build up your form. So the coils are really just a building block. They are not going to be visible at all. Here's another view of what it'll look like. So you're kind of building and smoothing using that template, supporting on the outside as you're kind of blending the inside and vice versa. So one of the main requirements of this is the applique piece. So you have to add clay to the surface, some sort of decoration. The decoration is totally up to you. It can be a little bit more minimal, but it needs to make sense. Don't just put one little ball of clay and say, I'm done, I did applique, because that's just going to look very random. You want your applique to look intentional and to have a purpose. So your applique could be handles like the images on the left, or it could be the decorative like the ones on the right. These all have really nice appliques on them. They're a little bit more figurative, so flowers and honeycombs, to the one on the right with the hole that looks almost like a fence that has a hole in it. It could be more decorative, so using coils on the outside. So the piece on the far right has braids on the bottom and the top that are kind of appliqued on. Okay, so once again, these are our requirements. Minimum height or width of 6 inches, all the craftsmanship, all the technique, and then having applique. These are not acceptable, so this is what I want you to avoid. For one, neither one of these has good craftsmanship. They look really sloppy and messy, poorly done. It looks like a small child just got some clay and started pinching away at it. There was no thought to the form. It's not uniform. It's just not good. Also, there's no applique on these. So that is one of the major requirements for this project. So that is option 1. Option 2 is a ceramic monster. So for this one, you are going to be working more with pinching, kind of free form, so similar to our last project. So these are examples of monsters, and it's literally you're making a monster out of clay. So once again, options are endless for this. Whatever your imagination, your creativity has, by all means, bring it in. Your monster can be silly, it can be scary, it could be happy, it could be sad, it could be angry. So you're able to really bring in a lot of personality into this project. Details are also going to be key. Okay, so I love the example on the right because of the details in the monster's face. It has these wrinkles, it looks aged, versus the one on the right has some of those details starting, but it isn't as eccentric. So texture is going to be your friend for this. Applique is also going to be your friend. As far as what your monster looks like, totally up to you. Think of, the basic human form. There's eyes, nose, mouth, arms, legs, body. Okay? But then you can bring in animal aspects, so horns, tails, tentacles, whatever it may be. And you can kind of mix and match. So if your monster has eyes, how many eyes does it have? 2, 1, 100. If it has a mouth, what kind of teeth does it have? Does it have really sharp teeth like a shark, or does it have more like beaver teeth? Okay, so you can definitely bring in a lot of variety with this. Giving your monster character is going to be important, so thinking about emotions, facial expressions, because that can really help with your monster overall. With this one, you do have to remember that your monster is 3-dimensional, so you're not just going to be looking at it from the front. So you have to put in thought as to what the monster will look like from the side, from the back, and really including details for all views. Okay, it's not flat, it's not going to hang up on a wall like a painting where the side and the back doesn't matter. It's 3D, so you really have to look at all of those different angles. Things to remember is to make sure that your sculpture is empty on the inside. So this will get covered in kind of the next slides. Once again, there's not going to be a formal demo unless you really need it. There's a step-by-step guide in this PowerPoint that will kind of show you how to go about the hollowing out part. And everything else, you all have been pretty wonderful with the applique and the details and creating all of that. So details are going to be key. So details, details, details. That's what's going to elevate your project to the highest level. Also craftsmanship, so wiping away excess slips, smoothing out imperfections, okay, and having fun. So with hollowing out forms, this is going to be crucial. You cannot have solid chunks of clay. Anything that's thicker than your thumb needs to be hollowed out, aka empty on the inside. Otherwise, the image on the right is what's going to happen to your piece. It is going to explode, and we don't want that. One, your project will be non-existent, but two, it's going to make a really big mess in the kiln, which will be hard to clean out, and those little pieces of clay could hit other projects, break them. It can get into the coils that help heat up the kiln and damage the kiln. So we really want to avoid the explosions. So these slides is how you're going to hollow out. So you'll kind of create your basic form, chop it in half. You're going to carve out the guts. Okay? So that way you're left with empty shells. So think of it like those chocolate bunnies that are empty on the inside. Put it all back together, blend out the seam, and poke a hole so that moisture can escape. And from there, you'll be able to add all of your details to the form. Okay. No plagiarism. No plagiarism, no plagiarism. Okay. Do not copy a monster that you've seen in movies, on TV, comic books, the internet. Okay. Do not copy anything. Don't say you want to recreate the monster from Monsters, Inc., like Sully, because that's not good. Okay? That is someone else's intellectual property. So make sure you're coming up with your own idea. And that's why we do multiple sketches, so you can get your ideas out into the open. Requirements for this project, the minimum size is 6 inches tall or wide. So you can decide to have your monster either really tall, kind of short and squat. It should be interesting from all sides because once again it is three-dimensional, so from the front, from the back, from the top should be interesting. Definitely use emotions, facial expressions, and poses with your monster. It could be a full body monster, or it could be kind of from the shoulders up if you want to focus more on the head. But details are going to be key along with craftsmanship. We will be painting these with tempera paints, so that will also be a part of the grade as your painting skills. So here are just some examples looking at kind of grade-wise-ish. So these monsters would exceed expectations. These would meet, okay, which are still excellent examples, just there could have been more detail work brought in. And these are the needs improvement. The please don't necessarily do, because there's a lot more talent that you personally possess, so you can do a lot better work. So those are our two options. You will see the projects, the PowerPoints in Google Classroom. Okay, so you can always refer to them there between which one you want to do.